In the last video, the circle alignment was tracked through Scotland to its far distant past, through its largest city, Glasgow, and its seat of government in Edinburgh. My name is Michelle Gibson. In this video, I am picking up the alignment in northern England in the Yorkshire Dales, a region which became a national park in 1954. It is described as being full of stone-built houses and stunning landscapes. Let's see what we find upon closer examination. This location, found near the village Malham, in what is called Malhamdale on the left with its stone and earthen terraces and canal, is similar to the stone and earthen terraces at Machu Picchu in Peru. And as well, Machu Picchu has canals like these. This is called Malham Cove on the top left. It is described as a huge curving cliff formation of limestone with a vertical cliff face of 260 feet or 79 meters high. It is said to have been formed by a waterfall carrying glacial meltwater over 12,000 years ago, compared with this picture on the top right taken at Cathedral Rock in Sedona, Arizona, and on the bottom is the Lauterbrunnen Valley in Switzerland. In all three places, there are striations that are black in color mixed into the stone of the massive wall-like topography. We simply have not been given any other explanation as to how they came to be, except that they were formed like this naturally. Another feature found at Malham Cove is called Malham Ash, which is actually called a limestone pavement. The definition of the word pavement is this: 1. A hard, smooth surface, especially of a public area or thoroughfare that will bear travel, and 2. The material with which such a surface is made. Other sites of the Yorkshire Dales include the Butter Tubs, the Goredale Scar, and the Rivelhead Viaduct, said to have been built between 1869 and 1874 for the railroad. It is on what is called moorland, which is described as uncultivated hill land. I believe the use of the word moor to describe uncultivated hill land is in reality telling us who lived here, and that the memory of these people is retained in the name. So, for example, as seen on this map showing boundaries of the Yorkshire Dales National Park, there is a place marked as Thrushfield Moor within the park, and at least 4 places marked as moors outside of the park's boundaries. So I looked up pictures of Thrushfield Moor and found the following. This mound there is described as the workings of an old mine. This is the top of Moor Lane on Thrushfield Moor. And these are described as boulders on Thrushfield Moor on the left that look a lot like the kind of things that you see at Machu Picchu on the right. One of the first realizations that I had in uncovering all of this information is that remnants of the advanced ancient civilization are preserved in national parks and other kinds of parks around the world, but are called natural features. Next on the alignment is the city of Leeds in West Yorkshire urban area in England, and has a population of 2.6 million. It has been a center of industry since the Industrial Revolution, which is said to have taken place from about 1760 to about 1840 in Great Britain. It is said that during this relatively short 80-year period of time, the foundations were laid in the transition to an industrialized society from an agricultural society. This is a historic photo of Leeds in England on the left, compared with a historic photo of New Orleans in Louisiana on the right. Now that was quite an accomplishment, to go from farming to this capability so quickly, and on different continents, no less. And look at how huge those buildings are compared to the people in the streets. This is the River Aire that flows through Leeds. Just like the River Clyde in Glasgow, it has masonry banks and looks like a canal, but is called a river like it's natural. And just like Glasgow, there is a canal here as well, the Leeds and Liverpool Canal that links the two cities, construction of which was said to have started around 1770. Complete with the gigantic Bingley 5 rise locks, said to have opened in 1774. All of this was taking place at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. This is the historic Corn Exchange in Leeds. It is called a Victorian building that was said to be constructed in 1864 and said to be designed by this guy here, an architect named Cuthbert Broderick, who was also given credit for designing this building, the Leeds Town Hall, after winning a design competition for it in 1852. It was said to have been completed in 1858. This is the interior of the Corn Exchange in Leeds on the left, compared with the inside of the San Francisco Emporium on the right. The San Francisco Emporium was called, at the time it opened in 1896, the grandest mercantile in the world. Its original structure survived the 1906 earthquake, but not urban developers after it closed in 1995. Since that time, most of the building was demolished, with the exception of the dome and facade to be used in a new building. This is the Thwaite Water Mill in Leeds, one of the last remaining water-powered mills in Great Britain, which became a museum in 1975. It is said to have been built between 1823 and 1825 on an island between the River Aire and what is called the Aire and Calder Navigation, what is referred to as a canalized section of the rivers Aire and Calder, which doesn't look much different in terms of masonry riverbanks of the River Calder itself, shown here. What are being called rivers and natural, I am seeing are canals that were man-made. One more thing is a comparison of the water wheel at the Thwaite Mill with some of the ancient water wheels of Fayoum in Egypt. In this oasis town southwest of Cairo, there are said to be as many as 200 water wheels that have been used as part of an irrigation system since as far back as the 3rd century BC. The River Aire has many beautiful bridges crossing it. When I saw this bridge in Leeds on the left, it reminded me of this bridge in Central Park in New York City on the right. And when I started looking at photos of bridges in both places, I noticed this one in Leeds on the top looks similar to this one in Central Park on the bottom. This is an example of what I am calling street corner architecture in Leeds on the top left that I am seeing in diverse places like this one in the Centro Historic District of Merida, Mexico on the top right, in Summerside, the second largest city in the Canadian province of Prince Edward Island on the bottom left, and this historic bank building in Toledo, Ohio on the bottom right. Next on the alignment is Sheffield, a city and metropolitan borough in South Yorkshire. 61% of Sheffield's entire area is green space, and 1/3 of the city lies in the Peak District National Park, becoming the first national park in the United Kingdom in 1951. With the majority of it being outside the city boundaries of Sheffield, the land is described as largely open moorland. This is the Derwent Dam and Reservoir, located in the Upper Derwent Valley. It is 10 miles or 16 kilometers from Sheffield. It was said to have been built between 1902 and 1914 and filled with water between 1914 and 1916. Keep in mind that World War I started during this time in July of 1914, so this would have been a big public works project during wartime. This is another perspective of the size and masonry of the dam from its base. This is a picture of the Peace Gardens, an open town hall square in the heart of Sheffield. And they form the main part of the spectacular walk that visitors take after they leave the huge Sheffield station for train and tram passengers. Next on the alignment is Nottingham, a city in the South Midlands of England. It is perhaps best known for the legend of Robin Hood and its sheriff. This is the Nottingham Council House, said to have been built between 1927 and 1929. It presides over the Old Market Square, which is also the center of the city. The waterworks in the Old Market Square on the left remind me of the water mirror on La Place de la Bourse in Bordeaux, France on the right, and on a different planetary alignment. Both of these places have examples of very sophisticated hydrological engineering. Nottingham is known as the City of Caves. This is called Mortimer's Hole, and it lies directly beneath Nottingham Castle. There are more than 450 sandstone caves beneath the city, and the largest known grouping of caves in the country. The caves are accessed by way of the Broadmarsh Shopping Centre in Nottingham. This is a view of what you see when you go down into the City of Caves on the left, which reminded me of the underground tunnels of the Serapeum at the Saqqara complex in Egypt, what is called a burial place for sacred Apis bulls on the right. The Serapeum contains a mystery of enormous granite sarcophagi weighing between 60 to 80 tons, cut from a single piece of stone, with 20-ton lids. While it is believed these sarcophagi were the intended resting places for the Apis bulls, there is actually no evidence for this. I will end this video here and pick up the alignment in the next video in Derby, England.